The lunch rush at the downtown cafe had finally slowed when Elena wiped her hands on her apron and tried to steady her breathing. She had been on her feet since dawn, balancing trays, forcing polite smiles, and ignoring the ache in her back that never really left anymore. The cafe sat across from the tallest glass tower in the city, the headquarters of a tech empire everyone knew about but few understood. Luxury cars lined the curb outside like a silent parade of success. Inside, Elena moved between tables like she was invisible, efficient, quiet, unnoticed. That was her life now. Once, she had dreamed of studying architecture, of designing buildings as bold as the skyline across the street. But when her mother fell ill and bills swallowed their savings, dreams became a luxury she couldn't afford. So she served coffee instead, memorizing orders and hiding disappointment behind warm brown eyes. She didn't know that in a few minutes, her ordinary afternoon would collide with a world she thought she'd lost forever. The bell above the cafe door chimed softly, and conversations lowered to a curious hush. A little girl stepped inside, no more than 8 years old, dressed in a cream-colored coat that looked like it had never known a wrinkle. Her long dark hair was brushed neatly over her shoulders, and behind her stood 2 security guards who tried to appear casual but failed. Elena recognized the face instantly from magazines near the counter. The child was Aria Loran, daughter of billionaire industrialist Victor Loran, the man whose company owned half the buildings downtown, including the one Elena once dreamed of working in. Aria didn't look arrogant or spoiled like tabloids suggested. She looked small, almost shy, scanning the room as if searching for something specific. To everyone's surprise, she walked past empty tables and straight toward Elena. "Are you Miss Elena?" Aria asked in a soft but steady voice. Elena blinked, startled that this child knew her name. She nodded cautiously, kneeling slightly so they were eye level. Up close, she noticed something fragile behind the girl's composed expression, like someone carrying a secret too heavy for their age. Without another word, Aria reached into her small handbag and pulled out a thick ivory envelope sealed with gold wax. The cafe seemed to freeze. Even the espresso machine hissed more quietly. Elena hesitated before taking it, her fingers brushing against expensive paper she had only ever seen in wedding magazines. "This is for you," Aria said gently. "It's very important." Confused, Elena opened the envelope carefully. Inside was a formal invitation embossed in gold lettering. It was for the Loran Foundation's annual charity gala, the most exclusive event in the city, attended by celebrities, politicians, and business moguls. Elena almost laughed, certain it had to be some mistake. She was a waitress with rent overdue and shoes worn thin at the soles. Why would she be invited to a ballroom where gowns cost more than her yearly salary? Her mind raced with embarrassment, assuming perhaps the invitation was meant for someone else with the same name. She looked up at Aria, ready to return it politely. But before she could speak, the little girl said something that made Elena's heart stop. "My daddy says you saved our future," Aria whispered. The words hung in the air like fragile glass. Elena's breath caught. Saved their future? She searched her memory frantically until a moment surfaced from months ago. A rainy evening. A stressed man sitting alone at a corner table, staring at blueprints scattered across the surface. He had looked exhausted, defeated. She had refilled his coffee 3 times and, noticing the sketches, casually mentioned a structural design flaw she recognized from her unfinished architecture studies. She hadn't known who he was. She had only spoken because she couldn't ignore it. The man had listened, asked questions, and left in a hurry. She never saw him again. Until now. "He said you pointed out the mistake no one else saw," Aria continued, her small voice steady but proud. "If that building had been built that way, it would have failed. You saved hundreds of jobs, and his company." Elena felt the room spin slightly. That tired stranger had been Victor Loran himself. Her simple observation, spoken between coffee refills, had altered the course of a billion-dollar project. She hadn't even expected a thank you. Aria stepped closer. "Daddy also said you gave up your own dream to help your family. He said people like you don't get noticed enough." The girl's eyes shimmered. "So he wants everyone to notice." Elena's throat tightened as emotion surged through her. The invitation suddenly felt heavier, not because of gold embossing, but because of what it represented. Recognition. Opportunity. A second chance. Tears threatened to fall, but she blinked them back, aware of customers quietly watching. "I was just doing my job," she managed to say softly. Aria shook her head. "No. You were being brave." The simplicity of the statement shattered Elena's last defenses. For years she had believed her sacrifices erased her worth. Yet here stood a billionaire's daughter telling her she mattered. The security guards shifted slightly, but the cafe remained silent, as if everyone sensed something extraordinary unfolding. Elena knelt fully now, meeting Aria's gaze with gratitude and disbelief. "Tell your father, thank you," she whispered. Aria smiled, a real, childlike smile that dissolved the formality of wealth. "He'll tell you himself at the gala. He says this is just the beginning." As the girl turned to leave, the bell chimed again, and sunlight streamed through the cafe windows, illuminating the gold seal in Elena's trembling hands. For the first time in years, the skyline outside didn't feel distant. It felt possible. Sometimes destiny doesn't knock loudly. Sometimes it walks in quietly, hands you an envelope, and reminds you that kindness and courage echo farther than we ever imagine. If this story touched your heart, if you believe ordinary people deserve extraordinary moments, make sure to subscribe to the channel and join our growing family. Because here, we share stories that prove hope can arrive when you least expect it, and your breakthrough might be closer than you think.